like you're a little bit more experienced while you're out on the court. The first tip is just coming when it comes down to pick up the ball. So a lot of times what people will do when they're very first beginning to play is they'll see a ball on the ground after they've played a point, and then they'll reach down to pick up every single ball. Now there's nothing wrong with that. You can do that if you want to, but if you watch more experienced players, what they'll do instead of reaching down and picking up the ball is they'll usually pick it up with their foot and the racket. So instead of actually having to bend over, they'll just kind of toss the ball up with their foot and the racket. Now how you do this, for those of you who don't know how to do this already, as the ball's on the ground, you just put your foot right beside it, and then you're going to wedge the ball between your foot and the racket, and as you pick up your foot, it's going to bounce the ball in the air, and then you're simply going to bounce it back up to yourself. So you can do this in one quick motion, and it makes it so much easier rather than going down and picking up each ball individually, and you'll look like you know what you're doing rather than someone who may have never played before. Another way is you get a little bit more advanced, you can go ahead and kick the ball up to you, where you just roll it up on your foot. So how I did that, you'll see pros doing this all the time, different variations of this, but you just roll the ball back on your foot. The ball is then going to roll up on top of your foot, and then you kick it up into the air. So you can do that if you want to. Again, this isn't the end of the world type stuff. It's not going to make you any better at tennis, but it's going to make you look like you know what you're doing. The third thing is, as we're starting a point, maybe as we're getting ready in the match, what you'll see most people do as they're getting ready for the point or starting a point is they'll toss the ball up, let it bounce on the ground, and then they'll hit it over into the opposing side of the court. Let me grab a couple more balls here. What I recommend that you do, and what you'll see the pros do, they start it a little bit differently. That can be a bit awkward as I'm tossing the ball up. Maybe it doesn't bounce high enough or bounces too high or something like that. What you'll see the pros do is they're going to drop the ball and hit it out of the air, or hit it right out of their hand as they're starting that point. So as you're getting ready to start the point, you just want to toss it down, hit it right out of the air. So if you're watching, all the pros are going to start the points just like that. One other thing to keep in mind is that as you're playing, after each odd game, so let's imagine we're starting the beginning of a match, I'm going ahead and serving, I serve out the point, I win, and I've just won the first game. Well, on every odd game, we're going to switch sides of the court. The reason you do this is that sometimes the sun will be in your eyes, and it's a bit of a disadvantage to the player on one side of the court. So after you finish the first game, the players are going to switch sides of the courts. You're going to play the second game, and then the third game is going to be the next odd game. You'll switch again. Fourth game, you stay on the same side. Fifth game, another odd game, you switch again. So every odd game, after every odd game, you switch sides of the court. And one thing that people can do, oftentimes I've seen beginning players do this, is let's imagine you serve, you still have a couple balls in your pocket. Well, you'll walk over to the bench, take a drink of water, take a break in the changeover on the odd games. And a lot of times what people will do is they'll sit the balls down, they'll get back out on the court, they'll realize that they don't have the balls, they'll go back over, try to find them, all that kind of stuff. So what I recommend that you do is after you serve, if it's time to switch, if you have any balls in your pocket, go ahead and set them right on the line here, so that as the next player comes over and they're ready to serve, they're simply going to be able to walk over and get the balls right here where they're going to be. So you don't have to put them in your pocket or hand them to the other player. You can just set them right on the line. That's completely fine. Now, last tip I have for you guys, and this is probably the most important one, is if you're really beginning a match or beginning to start to play matches just recreationally, and you're playing with people that you don't know, go ahead and let them know that you're not quite familiar with all the rules of tennis. You maybe don't know how to keep score properly, maybe you don't know everything, and let them know, hey, if I do something that's wrong, go ahead and tell me, and I'll change it or I'll fix it. What can really get frustrating to players if they're playing with beginning players, they might not know whether or not you're trying to mess them up. So for example, if you didn't know that you're supposed to change sides of the court after odd games,